두머리나 내가 killing 거는 부족하니까 네가 아는 줄로만 알았으니까 뭐가 쓰든 이젠 baby you should know that.
The soft light of dawn began to filter through the delicate lace curtains, casting a gentle glow across the room. Vian stared, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. As her eyes fluttered open, she found herself nestled against the of her husband Jimin. The events of the previous night played in her mind like a cherished dream, passionate, tender, and filled with the heady intoxication of newfound. Vian smiled, her heart swelling with happiness as she listened to the rhythmic sound of Jimin's breathing. She shifted slightly, causing him to stir. His arms instinctively tightened around her, pulling her closer. She felt his brush against her forehead, a tender gesture that made her heart skip a beat. "Good morning, Mrs. Park." Jimin's voice was with sleep, but there was a playful note to it that made Vian blush. "Good morning, Mr. Park," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Jimin's eyes sparkled with amusement and something deeper, something that made Vian's breath catch. "How did you sleep?" he asked, his fingers gently tracing patterns on her back. "Like a baby," Vian admitted, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Though I must say, it took a while to actually fall asleep." Jimin chuckled, the sound rich and warm. "I wonder why." When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless and smiling. Vian nestled back into the crook of his arm, feeling utterly content. "Last night was perfect," she murmured, her fingers tracing the lines of his. "It was," Jimin agreed, his voice softening. He tilted her chin up so she could see the sincerity in his eyes. "You make everything perfect, Vian." Her heart fluttered at his words. "You're just saying that," she said, though her smile betrayed her. Jimin shook his head. "I mean it. I feel like the luckiest man in the world to have you by my side." Vian felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they were tears of joy. "And I feel like the luckiest woman," she whispered, leaning into him again. They stayed like that for a while, wrapped up in each other's arms, savoring the quiet of the morning. Eventually, the growling of Jimin's stomach broke the serene silence, causing them both to laugh. "I guess we should get up and find some breakfast," Jimin suggested, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Vian nodded, carefully pulling herself away from him. Yes, we should. Though I have to say, I wouldn't mind staying in bed with you all day. Jimin's grin was wicked. That can be arranged, he said, pulling her back for another. The kitchen was filled with the mouth-watering aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling sausages. Vian stood at the stove, her hair tousled and her face glowing with happiness. Jimin was setting the table, stealing glances at her every few moments, a soft smile playing. Do you want eggs with your sausages? Vian called over her shoulder, trying to keep her focus on the task at hand despite the distraction of her husband's presence. Yes, please, Jimin replied, walking over to wrap his arms around her waist from behind. He nuzzled her neck, causing her to giggle. You look absolutely adorable, you know that? Vian blushed, leaning into his embrace. Flattery will get you everywhere. She, turning her head to his cheek. Jimin chuckled, giving her a gentle squeeze before letting her go. Just speaking the truth, he said, heading back to the table. So, what are our plans for today, Mrs. Park? Vian smiled as she cracked a couple of eggs into the pan. I thought we could just relax, maybe take a walk around the garden. It's our first day as husband and wife. After all, we should enjoy it. Jimin nodded, his eyes softening as he watched her. That sounds perfect, he agreed. I still can't believe you're mine. Vian turned to face him, her expression serious. I'm yours, Jimin, forever. He crossed the room in a few strides, pulling her into a passionate that left them both breathless. And I'm yours, Vian, forever, he vowed, his voice filled with emotion. They stood there for a moment, wrapped up in each other, until the sound of sizzling sausages brought them back to reality. Vian laughed, gently pushing him away. We should eat before we burn the breakfast. Jimin grinned, unwillingly letting her go. Agreed, but after breakfast, I'm going to show you just how much I love you. Vian's heart fluttered at his words, and she couldn't help but smile. I'm looking forward to it, she said softly. They finished preparing breakfast together, the kitchen filled with the laughter and stolen. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily, filled with plans for the future and shared dreams. I was thinking, Jimin began, taking a sip of his coffee. We should start planning our honeymoon soon. Where would you like to go? Ryan's eyes lit up with excitement. I've always wanted to visit Italy, she said. The romance, the history, the food, it sounds like a dream. Jimin reached across the table to take her hand. Italy it is, then, he said, his smile widening. We'll make it a trip to remember. Ryan squeezed his hand, her heart full. I can't wait, she said, her voice filled with anticipation. They spent the rest of the morning talking and dreaming, their hearts and minds completely in sync. The world outside their little bubble seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them wrapped up in their love. The afternoon sun was warm as Ryan and Jimin strolled hand in hand through the garden. The vibrant colors of the flowers and the gentle hum of bees created a serene backdrop to their quiet conversation. I love this garden, Ryan said, her voice filled with wonder. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Jimin smiled, pulling her closer. It is beautiful, he agreed, but not as beautiful as you. Ryan blushed, feeling the rise in her cheeks. You always know exactly what to say, she murmured, looking up at him with devotion. Jimin's expression softened. I mean it, Ryan. You're the most beautiful thing in my life, and I promise to cherish you every single day. Tears filled Ryan's eyes and she stopped walking, turning to face him. I promise to cherish you too, Jimin. To love you, support you, and be by your side no matter what. Jimin cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently wiping away the tears that had escaped. I love you so much, he whispered, his voice filled with emotion, more than words can ever express. Ryan leaned into his, her heart swelling with love. I love you too, she whispered back, her voice trembling with emotion, filled with the promise of forever. It was tender and sweet, a perfect reflection of their love. When they finally pulled apart, they rested their foreheads together, savoring the moment. Let's sit for a while, Jimin suggested, leading her to a bench under a blooming cherry tree. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, their fingers intertwined. The world seemed to slow down, giving them a precious moment to simply be together. I've been thinking about our future, Jimin said after a while, his voice thoughtful. about the family we want to build. Vian's heart skipped a beat. I have to, she admitted. I want it all, Jimin. The house, the kids, the adventures, everything. Jimin smiled, his eyes filled with love. We'll have it all, he promised. We'll build a life full of love and laughter, and I'll be by your side every step of the way. Felt tears of joy spill over, and she didn't bother to wipe them away. I'm so lucky to have you, she whispered, her voice with emotion. Jimin pulled her into his arms, holding her close. We're both lucky, he said softly, and we'll make every day count. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other's arms, the promise of forever hanging in the air like a sweet, unspoken vow. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, they knew that their love story was just beginning, and it would be a story for the ages.